Okay, good evening, everybody. Happy Tuesday evening. Apologies for the impromptu live. I wanted to come on here and continue the mini series that I've been discussing the past couple of weeks, discussing relationship essentials. Now, just to quickly recap, first week, we discussed mindset. And mindset is basically you creating the space for yourself to be in a position to where you are ready to jump into a relationship with somebody that you desire to pursue. Now, once you create the mindset for yourself, once you create the space and the time to pursue somebody, then you move on to the next step, which is being intentional. Now, this is where you begin the first step of potentially identifying a person of interest for you because you are putting yourself in a position to be out in public to be found by this person. So, the example that I used on the last stream was you could be at the library, you could be at the gym, you could be at the bar, you could be at a speak easy event, uh, you could be in the grocery store if it's the right time and place. Uh, the setting really doesn't matter. For the guys, if you feel convicted in your spirit to approach a woman, regardless of the setting, if your approach is um, proper, if your approach isn't off-putting, and if you present yourself in a manner in which is pleasant, then you may have some success. Now, once you have successfully uh, identified a person of interest, and once you have uh, established rapport in the sense of you've exchanged phone numbers and you've done the initial legwork to get each other's information. Now, what you want to focus on is the communication. Now, this is where things get tricky because communication, um, to me, is the foundation of creating a situation where you want to have a long-standing relationship with your person, excuse me, or whether things are going to fall apart. And so, for me, a good rule of thumb that I always like to have is I like to be transparent in the sense of stating what my intentions are and then letting the other person feed off of that. So, for example, if I'm courting a woman and we've exchanged numbers, we are in conversation now. Now I am establishing what my intentions are. But this is where it gets tricky because as adults, we put so much stock in communication, or not communication, but put so much stock and energy into half how fast somebody replies back to us via text. And that can be tricky because everyone doesn't have the same time and space to text back immediately, depending on what sort of environment they're in, depending on what's going on, depending on what frame of mind they're in. And so it can be tricky. But when it comes to communication, you want to be as transparent as possible So that way, at least for yourself, if things eventually don't work out with this person that you are desiring, that you um, were pursuing, at the end of the day, you can sleep good at night knowing that the communication that you were providing to this person was open. You weren't hiding anything. You were being very transparent with what your intentions were, what you what your goals are, where you plan to go in the future, and it's up to them to decide whether that fits them or not. Now, in our current climate, ghosting is so much of a prevalent thing. It's so much of a hot topic. What continues to be, uh, and that's because nobody wants to being in a position where they show somebody else that they are lacking in something. And so the easiest thing to do as a result of insecurities and trauma is to ghost, um, because of trauma. Something that somebody that you're in communication with, that you are interested in dating, could trigger you in some kind of way to say something that cause you to uh, have a flashback about what you've experienced with somebody else, to where you basically run off on them. And you want to be careful with that, because if you've made it to this part, you created the time and the space within yourself to say, I got the mindset to date. You were intentional by the setting in which you were going in to pursue uh, a person of interest. So now that you have this person of interest, you want to make sure your communication is on point. You want to make sure your communication is 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 transparent, that you are open and honest about what you have going on, open and honest about what your strengths and weaknesses are, open and honest about what your goals are, what your desires are, what your plans for yourself in the future is, and build off of that conversation, because the whole point of communication is to understand one another. It is to get to know the other person. The basic questions of what do you like to do, and all of those basic questions that uh we ask all the time. All of that's fine. That is good information to know. But you want to come to understand what somebody's emotional intelligence is. You want to come to understand where they at within a mental state. What is their temperament? What is their relationship like with their family? If they have kids, if they've been married before, um, what are some short term goals that they have? What are some long term goals that they have? What is it that they fear the most? What is it that excites them the most? All of this is great questions to ask anyone that you're coming to know and beginning to know, because all of this is going to be able to create a portfolio of information for you to understand and know whether this is somebody that you want to pursue or not, or whether this is something that's going to be short lived. And based upon the information you get from this person, or based upon the information they get from you, it may be short lived, or it may be something that can be sustainable over a long period of time. But that can only be figured out through communication. And communication essentially is the starting point in you being able to understand what sort of person you have uh, at your disposal, to figure out what are their communication styles, what are they like in conflict, all those different things you're going to be able to figure out by communicating with this person. You're going to be able to figure out whether they like to communicate in person or whether their preferred communication method is text or whether it's on the phone or what have you. All of those things will be able to be figured out by you and by them by having these conversations. But it is important that, in my opinion, you push your cards in the middle of the table, you be open and transparent to this person of interest about what it is you desire, what it is you want, what it is you have going on. What are your goals? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? It's important to establish that and lay all that out because people come into your life for various different reasons, for the right reasons, for the wrong reasons. And so, what you want to be able to establish to this person is that, hey, this is the headspace that I'm in within my life. I desire to get married. I want to get married. I want to have kids one day. And so I am dating intentionally to get to that point. I'm not looking for anything for a short time. I'm looking for something for a long time. All of this is going to establish where you're going to stand with a person because this is going to alleviate a lot of heartache and strain later on. But if the communication is wishy washy and is mixed matched, then you're going to be very upset at yourself later on if things don't work out on the things that were missed that you could have caught if the communication was more open and out there in terms of helping this person understand where you at within yourself and what is it that you desire out of them. So uh, this is going to be a short video, but communication is the foundation of any relationship because from that point, if you have good or great communication with your person, from there, not only are you going to build trust from that person and within that person, but then you're also going to have the respect as well because you all are feeding each other consistent information. You're feeding each other transparent information. The communication is a two-way street. The communication is not flowing one way or the other. It's flowing from you to them, back and forth constantly, to where there's no confusion about anything. So um, keep that in mind when you've identified a person of interest. Establish a game plan in terms of how are you going to go about communicating with this person? How are you going to go about establishing to this person of interest how you like to communicate? Make that the first thing you do when you exchange numbers, exchange information. Establish to this person, hey, this is how I like to communicate. This is my preferred communication method because of X, Y, and Z. Because you're going to help them understand why text may be your preferred communication method. It could be because of your job. You're going to help them understand why in person is the preferred communication method because it could be you like to be in the moment with that person. You like to see body language. You like to see them in uh, in a setting that's not of their own. in the public. You want to see some of these different things because you want to see how they conduct themselves, how they present themselves, and how they represent themselves. So establish your preferred communication method, and then establish a game plan of how are you going to help not only yourself, but how you're going to help this person of interest understand you and how you communicate, so where you all can find that happy middle point to where it can mesh well and it can work in in a relationship moving forward later down the road. So we've covered mindset. We've covered being intentional about approaching a person of interest. Now, once you have that person of interest, now you want to establish a good line of communication with that person, to where now you're laying the foundation, you're laying the gravel, you're laying the asphalt, the cement down, whatever you want to call it. You're laying that down as your foundation, so that way you can build upon that communication to the other layers that are important in a relationship. So thank y'all for watching. Uh, the next video is going to be the last video of this mini series on the relationship essentials. If you have any questions, please reach out to me at bookcoachvic@gmail.com. I made a post on my Facebook that right now, due to the government shutdown, I am doing free uh, coaching sessions. So if you're interested, please email me, and I'll put something together for us to get together via telephone or Zoom to talk. So once again, thank y'all for listening. You all be safe. Love you all, and we'll talk soon. Peace.